Cabin steward Ramey announced himself promptly at 8 o'clock the next morning by knocking on the cabin door. Without waiting, he carried the breakfast tray inside, careful not to spill on his crisp, white uniform. "Madame Birnbaum? Time for breakfast." He placed the tray on the coffee table while surprised to see her still in bed. "Madame Birnbaum?" Ramey sat down next to her on the bed and reached for her hand. It was cold. He sighed. "Oh, madam." After a few minutes, he rose and went to the safe inside her closet. He punched in the combination. It clicked open. He pushed aside jewelry cases, stacks of cash, and found a thick envelope. Ramey read the address, a lawyer in New York City. He stared at the envelope until tears blurred his vision. Chapter 2. Uh-huh. Beth held the phone in the crook of her neck while dangling a glittery pom-pom from a string in front of her white cat. Grendel batted it half-heartedly with his one remaining front paw. If asked, he'd rather lounge undisturbed in the sunspot on her desk. Uh-huh, Beth repeated. "Governor Sharp, I was going to submit it. Now we'll miss the deadline." She made the cat toy bob and dance, just out of Grendel's reach. "Yes, I know how important your story is." "Yes. Yes, I understand." She groaned silently. The all-important timeline was now doomed with another last-minute change. Her publisher had strategically scheduled Sharp's book for the winter holidays, just in time to support her election campaign the following year. At this rate, it would be next spring before it would see the light of day. The publication date, and Beth's enthusiasm, was getting pushed further and further away with each of the governor's panicked phone calls and her selective memory of past events. "What exactly do you want to add?" Beth reluctantly put down the cat toy. She took notes. After 30 minutes listening to a new angle of a tired old campaign story, she said, "Okay. I'll need to check with Frank. Can I call you back Monday?" She hung up and put her head down on the desk, defeated. Grendel gently tapped her hand with his paw. This project just wouldn't end. This book was her third politician this year, and Governor Lena Sharp's autobiography had dogged Beth for almost 6 months. She didn't know how much of Sharp's story was true, embellished, or fictionalized. Beth was a ghostwriter and, thankfully, not a fact-checker. If she got paid by the eye roll, her publisher would owe her a fortune. A typical assignment was exasperating, but Governor Sharp took maddening to a whole new level. Late-night phone calls, excessive hand-holding, the governor's tedious stories beginning with I and ending with me were routine. Sharp's ego exhausted Beth. So did all the revisions. Beth sat pouting in the squeaky chair in her office, which was really a corner in the living room in front of the only window. She leaned forward and pressed her nose against the cold glass. The lone tree in the small garden on Fulton Street below had changed from luxe velvety green to brittle gold and brown. By next week, its remaining leaves would be on the ground. Fall had arrived. Another season, and she still wrote other people's stories. She called her editor, Frank, and left the message, "You owe me," on his voicemail. Then she released a loud, frustrated sigh sounding like a foghorn. Annoyed, Grendel blinked his green eyes and trotted to the kitchen for the comfort of his food bowl. While she waited for a return call, Beth cleaned up her desk to help temper the unresolved issue. She tucked her hair behind her ears and organized old notes, interviews, and previous drafts of Sharp's manuscript. She shuddered as she backed up computer files and wondered how politicians ever got elected in the first place. Although premature, and wishful thinking, she shoved Sharp's paperwork into a file drawer labeled "Completed." On one wall hung framed prints of her bestseller book jacket.